Kalkadosh Boker or Masechet Menahot Daf Yomi Daf Lamed Amud Aleph 38:1 says the Gemara Idach De'amar Rav Huna. Yeah, he's talking about now in Shitat Rav Huna, right? He says Idach De'amar Rav. Sorry, Idach that Rav came and he said Hakotev Sefer Torah Uba Ligmor Gomer Va'afilu Be'emtza Daf. Imagine right now you're coming and you're writing a Sefer Torah, and you're going to finish, so you could finish even in the middle of the daf. Okay? That means you don't have to wait until you don't have to make it that the last word would be Le'nei Kol Yisrael. Okay? Yes. So Meitvei, so we're going to ask the following question. Hakotev Sefer Torah Balo Ligmor Lo Yigmor Be'emtza Daf. It's Mefurash. You shouldn't do it. Kadereshu Gomer B'Chumashin, just like he finishes in the Chumashin, right? Because basically if you're going to finish in the other four Chumashin, you're allowed to finish wherever you are, even in the middle of the daf. Right? Many times you'll finish, in the middle, and then they'll start the next one, like a Bamidbar or Vayikra. Vayikra actually starts towards the bottom. It's not mamash on the top. It's towards the bottom. There's a few things. Shemot is towards the top, if I remember. But again, there's going to be a few lines, you understand? So he says, Ela barather, mekatzer veholech ad sof adaf. But rather, you're going to be mekatzer veholech until the end of the daf. Meaning, what you're going to be doing is you're not going to write full lines. You're going to start writing shorter lines in order that you could get to the bottom of the page. זאת אומרת, אתה כבר מתחיל לקצר את השורות בשביל להגיע עד סוף הדף. אז יש לך למטה שתי שיטות. Look at Rashi and Rambam. You see Rashi and Rambam on the bottom? Everybody? Rashi? As Rashi says, how do you do it? Look what he does. You're doing it like, you start doing it like this. Like a triangle downwards. You understand? And the shita of the Rambam was, no, that you're like cutting it down this way. כן? זאת אומרת, אתה שורה ככה, ואז פחות, ואז פחות, ואז פחות, ואז פחות, 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 עד למטה. לא, בגלל הוא אומר, זה בסוף התורה. בסוף דברים, כשאתה גומר, אנחנו מנסים לעשות שזה יהיה בסוף הדף. עכשיו, פה בהתחלה הוא אומר, לעיני כל ישראל, נגמר עד הסוף.
בסוף הדברים יש את זה?
כן, רק בסוף דברים. בגלל כל שאר הזה, זה באמצע. Yeah? Gemara, who wrote Gemara? That's for the last page only. Okay, the last page. So he comes and he says, we have a question. The question says, when you're writing a Sefer Torah, you have to finish it in such a fashion that it's not going to be, it has to be at the end of the page. Right? So therefore he says, Ki kamarav bechumashin. You're right. We're talking about the ktiva of a Sefer Shalem. Right? That means basically if you're going to write a chumash, which is going to be a Sefer Shalem, it also has to be besof hadaf. Okay? Yes, exactly. Meaning that if I'm going to come and I'm going to, how do you call this? No. Rav was not talking about a chumash, but the Rav was talking about the chumashin, and therefore he says, Aktivat Sefer Torah Shalem, you have to finish it on the Sofa Daf. But if it's a chumash Shalem, it does not have to finish the Sefer until the end. So says the Gemara, Sefer Torah Kamar. What are you talking about? But Rav said Mefurash, Hakotev Sefer Torah. How do you translate to me that Sefer Torah equals Chumash? Right? A Chumash is a Chumash, a Sefer Torah is Sefer Torah. So he says, no. We're talking about Chumashin of the Sefer Torah, which means a Chumash of the Sefer Torah Shalem, which means he's teaching that if you're going to write a Sefer Torah and you're going to be at the end of one of the four, right, of the Parashiyot, meaning like one of the four Sefarim, you don't have to finish it, right, Besof Adaf, right, just like you have to do it if you're doing it separately. Meaning like this, if I'm going to write a Sefer Shalem, Levad, by itself, so I'm writing Bereshit, so I have to finish Bereshit at the end of the page. If I'm writing Shemot by itself, I have to finish Shemot at the end of the page. If I'm doing Vayikra by itself, usually we don't do it by itself, that's why, but I'm saying if you would have to finish it at the end of the page. However, though, if you're doing it inside of a Sefer Torah, ze af pam lo besof hadaf. So to minute, you don't, Bamidbar is also in the middle. If you come, no, you have to. You have to give a few lines. But it's never at the end of the page. No. Look at Shemot. It starts at the top. That means hu lo gamar bereshit besof hadaf. hu gamar bereshit בתחילת הדף. ואחרי כמה שורות הוא מתחיל שמות. Right? No, but he didn't finish it at the end of the page. That was Bereshit. Go to the next one, which is Shemot. So you're going to go to Shemot. Same thing, אותו דבר. הוא לא גמר בסוף הדף. הוא גמר לקראת הסוף, ואז כמה שורות של ויקרא. תמשיך, right? Until במדבר. So you come and you have until במדבר, you're going to have the same thing. באמצע. You understand? So therefore you see that each one of them, you don't have to finish it at the end of the daf. You understand? So he comes now and he says like this. He says, right? He says, Any is it so? Veha amar Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba, amar Rav Gidal amar Rav. Says Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba, the name of Rav Gidal amar Rav. Le'enei kol Yisrael. What does it mean, le'enei kol Yisrael? Be'emtza daf. It means be'emtza daf. Right? So answers the Gemara, hahi be'emtza shita itmar. That was talking about in the middle of the shita, which means in the middle of the line. Right? Be'emtza shura. Meaning it wasn't talking about mamash. So when basically Rav Gidal comes in and says in the name of the Rav that you're not supposed to finish be'emtza daf, we're not talking about be'emtza daf. We're talking about be'emtza shita, be'emtza shura. Meaning le'enei kol Yisrael should not be, right? That means basically you could write le'enei kol Yisrael in the middle. V'Rabbanan Amren, Rabbanan come and they say, when Rav comes and he says you're allowed to finish the Sefer Torah be'emtza shita, we were not talking about the Eter and the Emtza Shura bilvad, but really was going to be af be'emtza shita, which means afilu be'emtza shura, right? In Kol Sheken you're allowed to finish it be'emtza daf. Rav Ashi Amar be'emtza shita davka. No, 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 no. You could only do it in the middle of the line, but you don't have to. But you're not going to do it in the middle of the page. So basically, like this, we've got a Gemara. There's the shita. The shita is the line, and then we have the daf, the end of the page. There's going to be a machloket, right? What's going on? Le'enei kol Yisrael, right? Which is basically the last words of the Sefer Torah. Okay, meaning that when you're going to come and you're going to take the Sefer Torah, the last words is going to be le'enei kol Yisrael. Now, if you pay attention, le'enei, I don't know what they did this chumash. The le'enei kol Yisrael, right, which is going to be over here, finishes be'emtza shura. It does not go until the end. Everyone realized? One more time. Here's le'enei kol Yisrael. No, no, no. אבל זה כן בסוף הדף. רק שנייה, אז. So therefore, what's going on here is that there's going to be a machloket between Rabbanan and Ravashi. When it said that you're allowed to do it, it's not means be'emtza daf. Be'emtza daf, you're not allowed to finish the Torah be'emtza daf. You have to wait until the end of the daf. However, though, right, what are you allowed to do? You're allowed to finish be'emtza shura. So therefore, what happens is that now there's going to be a machloket. Is it dafka be'emtza shura or af be'emtza shura? Af means also in the middle of the line. If I tell you that you could also finish in the middle of the line, what does that mean? That means that you're allowed to finish also in the middle of the page. But I told you you're allowed to finish in the middle of the page, and you're allowed to finish also in the middle of the line. But if I tell you it's dafka, it's specifically in the middle of the line, meaning you have to finish it at the bottom of the page. But you're allowed to finish it in the middle of the line. And that's exactly what I just showed you. I showed you that we did finish it at the bottom of the page, but you're allowed to finish it in the middle of the line. Be'emtza shura. So says the Gemara as follows, right? He comes and he says, Vihilchata. What is halacha? Be'emtza shita davka, which means the halacha is like Ravashi, that you're only allowed to finish in the middle of the line, but not in the middle of the page. So if you're not allowed to finish in the middle of the page, therefore you have to go until the end of the page, and that's what we do until halacha al-maaseh. Meaning when the Gemara says v'ilchata, now you understand it's v'ilchata, right? Very good. So therefore, says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yoshua bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Gidal amar Rav. Yeah, אנשים צריכים ללמד אותם א' ב'. Fine, it doesn't matter. Says Rav Yoshua in the name of Bar Abba, in the name of Rav Gidal amar Rav. שמונה פסוקים שבתורה יחיד קורא אותם בבית הכנסת. Do you know the last 8 psukim in the Torah, which speaks about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu, a yachid could read it in the Bet Knesset b'tzibur, which means the one that's starting to read it, he does not stop in the middle, right? In order that somebody else should read it, but rather he reads it until the end. And what do we do? What do we do? Exactly that. Who reads the last 8 psukim in the Torah? It's always Chatan Mesayem, Chatan of the Chatan Torah. Why? Because everybody else gets up to the Torah and they read until Meonah, or until the end of Meonah, And then all of a sudden comes the Chatan Torah, Chatan Mesayem. He's going to start from the beginning of his Zot Bracha, and he finishes the entire Torah, meaning that only one person could read the last 8 pesukim in the Torah, which speak about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu. We don't split it up, so therefore it's only one person reading it. So says the Gemara, Keman, who does this go like? The local Rabbi Shimon, not like Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya was learned in a Braita. Vayamot Sham Moshe Eved Hashem. That Moshe Rabbeinu, the Eved Hashem, passed away. If Sham Moshe Chai v'Katav Yamot Sham Moshe. I don't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu is alive, and he's the one that's writing Vayamot Sham Moshe. What's going on then? Ela, but rather, Ad kan katav Moshe. Until here, until these 8 psukim Moshe Rabbeinu wrote. Mikam ve'elach katav Yoshua ben Nun. From then onwards was Yoshua ben Nun wrote. That means according to this shita, right? Yoshua ben Nun wrote the last 8 pesukim of the Torah. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so who wrote the last 8 psukim of the Torah? Yoshua, right? Yoshua ben Nun. Ve'amri la Rabbi Nechemia. Some people say it wasn't Rabbi Yehuda, it was Rabbi Nechemia. Amalo Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon to Rabbi Yehuda or to Rabbi Nechemia, אפשר ספר תורה חסר אות אחת, וכתיב, לקוח את ספר תורה הזה ושמתם. Right? He says, I don't understand. We know that even if it's missing one letter in the Torah is psula. So how could it be now that it's going to be chaser? Because Ki'ilu Moshe Rabbeinu is not the one that's writing those things. And he's saying, take this Sefer Torah and it's going to be an ed. It's lacking. Ela ad kan HaKadosh Baruch Hu omer, u'Moshe omer ve'kotev. Until here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling it to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu was also omer ve'kotev. From here, by the way, we learn that there's a halacha, right? That the halacha is that a sofer, when he's going to write a Sefer Torah, he has to repeat the word and then he writes it. From here we learn it because it says Ad kan HaKadosh Baruch Hu omer u'Moshe omer ve'kotev. So he had to say it, and then he would actually do it, right? So now he says, okay, mikam ve'elach, but from then onwards, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was omer, and Moshe was kotev bedema. He was writing it with, right, with tears, right? That means he wasn't actually saying it again because he was mitztaer. כמו שנאמר להלן, ויאמר להם ברוך מפי ויקרא אליי את כל הדברים האלה, ואני כותב על הספר בדיו. Right? He's going to come and he's going to write a b'dio. So says the Gemara, so now that we just said this, it comes out that the last 8 psukim were not written by Moshe Rabbeinu, so therefore the Yachid is going to read it without a pasek in order to make a eker. So leima de lo Rabbi Shimon. So obviously we're not going to say that it's going like Rabbi Shimon, because according to him, right, it was written by Moshe Rabbeinu. Even the last 8 psukim, the only difference was it wasn't. He didn't repeat it. So says the Gemara, filu tema Rabbi Shimon. Even if you're going to tell me it's Rabbi Shimon, hoil vishtaneh. Ishtane. The fact that it's different, the way that you wrote the last 8 psukim, even if it was Moshe Rabbeinu writing it, but the fact that it's different, the way how he wrote it, that in itself they don't want to do it, they don't want to divide it, and therefore even if it's going to be Rabbi Shimon, we still have a reason why not to allow that you shouldn't split it up between 2 different people. Ve'amar Rabbi Yoshua bar Abba amar Rav Gidal amar Rav. It says Rabbi Yoshua bar Abba, the name of Rav Gidal amar Rav. Halokeach sefer Torah min hashuk, kechotef mitzvah min hashuk. If you're going to purchase a sefer Torah from the shuk, it's ki'ilu that you're כאילו that you're going to be חוטף המצווה מן השוק. כתבוא, if you wrote a sefer Torah, מעלה כתוב כאילו קיבלו מהר סיני, כאילו that you were מקבל a sefer Torah מהר סיני. So אמר רב ששת, says רב ששת, אם הגיע אפילו אות אחת, מעלה עליו הכתוב כאילו כתבוא. So if you were going to be מגיע, meaning that you took a sefer Torah, and you were מגיע the sefer Torah, even on אות אחת, it's כאילו that you wrote the sefer Torah. Because obviously the fact that you did a aga on it, and you went and you changed it, right? So it's כאילו that you wrote it. So Tanu Rabbanan we learned in the Braita, Ose Adam Yiriyah mi bat shalosh dapin ve'ad bat shmone dapin. When you're going to make a Yiriyah of a Sefer Torah, you're allowed to make it of 3 dapin, 3 amudim, until 8 amudim. Pachot miken v'yoter al ken lo yaseh, but less than 3 and more than 8, you shall not do. Okay? Meaning like this. I don't know if you ever realized, right? The Sefer Torah is made out of a lot of dapin together, cloths together, and they're sewn together. Right? So all the pages, they're sewn together. Now, it's not that every single page, because you don't have sewings in every single page. You've got, let's say, like a page, right? Now, on that, how many amudim are you able to write, right? So therefore, what he's trying to say is that minimum, you should have 3. So I should have 1, 2, 3, and that's going to be on one cloth. And then I could sew it to the next one. So the minimum of each klafim, the minimum of each one should be 3 amudim. However, though, he says, I don't need to do 3. I could do 5. I could do 7. 8. I could do 8. 8 is the maximum. So therefore, I'm going to come and I'm going to have 8. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Boom. So So I wrote everything down. I continue going. But he says, don't do less than 3 and don't do more than 8. Now, why? He says, um, why shouldn't you do more than this, more than the 8? Get it. If it's going to be more than 8, it looks like a letter. It doesn't look like a Sefer Torah. It looks like a letter, like a long letter. You know how when a person comes and he writes a long letter, it's like a long thing. Yeah, like Megillat said, it looks like a letter. So right, ולגם לא ימעט בדפים, but don't do too little than 3, מפני שאז עיניו משוטטות, because then the eyes, right, since they're going to be, that's what he says over here, שאז עיניו is going to be משוטטות, was the dapim are going to be כל כך רחב, so it's very difficult to finish the shura, right, to start the next shura. And it could be that you're going to make a mistake and you're going to go to the wrong shura. אלא but rather, כגון, but rather, what are you supposed to do? The רוחב המילה למשפחותיכם. Right, what does that mean? Shalosh pamim, meaning the distance, right, is going to be the rochav of every single daf has to be the rochav av lemishpechotechem 3 times. Meaning, when you're taking from one, how do you call it? Like one column to another column, the distance between them is going to be the word lemishpechotechem 3 times. Okay. So he comes now and he says like this, Nizdamna lo sefer, right, whether it's going to be Yiriyah bat Teisha dapim. What happens now right now if he's going to have Yiriyah, which is going to be Rechava, like 9 dapim, right? So now he comes and he says, Lo yachlok, right, don't divide it Shalosh lekan v'shesh lekan, ela arba lekan v'chamesh lekan. Don't do it 3 and 6, right? But do it 4 and then 5. One of these words, betchilat sefer, only the beginning, right, of the sefer, which means before the last Yiriyah. But towards the end of it, afilu pasuk echad, even if there's only going to be one pasuk, right? He could write that pasuk, right, with a very very long, right, otiot rechovot, right, in order that it should fill the entire yiriyah. Afilu daf echad, even if it's going to be right the last one, he could write a daf, right, sherochvo kerochav yiriyah kula. So he comes here now and he says like this: Pasuk echad salkadaitach. Are you going to tell me now that a person is going to come and write a pasuk, right, for the rochav of the entire yiriyah? Right? What does that mean? So he comes and he says, "Elaima pasuk echad bedaf echad." We're talking about one pasuk in one daf. That means basically you're only going to have one word per line. So you're going to finish the pasuk at the end of that daf. Meaning like this: you had the dapim, and on the end you have a very very skinny line. So what you're going to do is, okay, it's very, obviously if I'm going to say by the ber Hashem lemor, it's a very short pasuk, but I would do by the ber Hashem el Moshe lemor. Now pretend obviously that it's which one? Ah, they did put a one pasuk. Okay, so they put it. Kilu they went and there's a little tiny bit of a space. It's not enough to come and to finish. So what are you doing? Right, exactly. So what are you doing? You're coming and you're making it very very long in order that it should finish at the end of the page. Okay, shiura gilion. When we're talking about right now, right? So by the way, this is the Gemarot that they learn for Safrut, by the way. Right? This is all the Gemarot for Safrut. Right? So Shiur Gilayon, when we're talking about now the Shetach, which is Chalak, around the Sefer Torah, Milamata, if it's going to be on the bottom, it has to be Tefach. Milamala, Shalosh Etzbaot. Meaning like this, when you're going to come and you're going to take the Sefer Torah, you're going to realize that on the bottom, it's more empty. On the bottom is empty. On the top, it's less. It's shalosh etzbaot. So on the top, all you need is shalosh etzbaot, and on the bottom, it's going to be a tefach. Okay, everyone understood? So shiur gilyon milemata, right? Tefach milemala shalosh etzbaot. Uben daf ledaf, right? And again, between one daf and another daf, you're going to need kimlo revach shte etzbaot. That it's going to be 2 etzbaot. Uva chumashin. Now, when we're talking about between one chumash and another chumash, milemata is going to be shalosh etzbaot, right? Umilamalan shte etzbaot, uben daf ledaf, and between one daf and another daf is kimlo revach gudal. It has to be a gudal. You have it there? Where did you get all these pictures? Oh, very nice. Yeah, yeah. Stefanski. Ah, very nice. Yeah, he shows it here. The gilion, the tefach on the bottom, right? You've got the gimel etzbaot, the two etzbaot in between. Very, very nice. Look, yeah. If you want to pass it around, so they could see. Very good. Next, right? Uben shita leshita, between one shita and another shita, kim lo shita, uben teva leteva, kim lo ktana. That means between every single word, you always need a small letter, which is like a yod. Uben ot leot is like chutasara. You need mamash like a skin hair, right? Like mamash like a hair's breadth, like the length. Al yemaet adam ktav lo mipnei revach shel mata shel revach shel mala. A person should not come and to be mimaet the ktav, the godel of the ktav, not because of the revach on the top or the bottom. Okay, that means even if it didn't have the exact amount. Velo mipnei revach sheben shita leshita, right? And not between revach between one shita and another shita. Velo mipnei revach sheben parasha leparasha, or between one parasha and another parasha. Nizdamna lo teva bat chamesh otiyot. If he's got at the end of the shura something that has 5 letters, what's he going to do now? So he says, Lo yichtov shtayim betoch hadaf v'shalosh chutz hadaf. Don't write 2 inside the daf and 3 outside the daf. Meaning like this. Remember, everyone's with me? Everyone, we have a line going straight down. Right? There's a sirtut going down on both sides. All of a sudden, I've got a word. Now, the word has 5 letters. Now, I only have enough space to write inside this line 2 letters. So I'm not allowed to write 2 letters inside that space and then 3 letters. Talosh chutz hadaf. Okay, says the Gemara, daf lamed amud Ela shalosh betoch hadaf u'shtayim chutz hadaf. But what I am allowed to do is I could write 3 letters within the daf and 2 outside, which means even though when I'm going downwards, there's going to be 2 letters outside, meaning it goes down. There's going to be 2 letters outside, it's still okay. Because since I've got 3 letters on the inside, the 3 and then the 2, that's okay. But I cannot do 2 and then the 3. That's what I'm not allowed to do. So he says, V'nizdamna lo teva bat shte otiyot. Right now, what happens if I only have a word which is 2 letters? Lo yizrakenu ben adapim. Don't throw it there. Right? Ela chozer v'kotev betchilat hashita. Meaning, so you know what? 1 second. If I just told me now that you can never write 3 letters outside the line, but 2 yes. So imagine the word et. The word et only has two words, so two letters. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do right et kol asher asa. So I'm going to write the et outside. You're going to tell me, why are you writing it outside? I'm going to tell you it's only 2 letters. He said, no. If the word, exactly, meaning if the word is a 2-letter word, write it on the next line. Okay? Hatoeh b'shem. If a person comes and he made a mistake, right, in the Shem Hashem, gored ma shekatav, you have to scrape off that which you already wrote. V'toleh et ma shegarar. Right? And you're going to be toleh that which you were megared, right? The otiyot shegarar. That means you're going to have to write them again. Okay? V'kotevet Hashem al mekom hagarar. Then you're going to write the name of Hashem on the place where you just scraped. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Rabbi Yosef says, af tolinet Hashem. You're allowed to do it above the row. Everyone understood what I just said? Above the row means you've got the row. I forgot Shem Hashem. You know what I'm going to do? The first shita says, erase, write the name of Hashem, and continue. You know what the second shita is? Yud Ke Vav Ke, write it above. I've got the row, mamash above. Me'al. Yeah, that's what you just said. Huh? For sure it's not clean, but again, that's what he says. בן. לא, תמיד יש לך ספייס בן. תמיד יש לך ספייס. אבל אתה יכול לעשות. רבי יצחק אומר, אני קורא גמרא, right? רבי יצחק אומר. רבי יצחק comes and he says, אף מוחק וכותב. You could be מוחק, right? The dio, right? When it's lach, and then kotev, meaning like this. If you remember, there's a difference between garar and mochek. The garar is ligror, is when it's dry, I come and I scrape it off. Rabbi Yitzchak comes and he says mochek. Mochek means that I'm erasing. How do you erasing it? When it's still moist. When it's going to be moist and I'm going to erase it, that you're allowed to do v'kotev. Rabbi Shimon Shezuri Omar, kol Hashem kulo tolin mikzato en tolin. He says, if it's entire Shem Hashem, you could be toleh. But if it's going to be mikzat Shem Hashem, you cannot be toleh. Rabbi Shimon Elazar Omer Mishum Rabbi Meir says Rabbi Shimon Elazar in the name of Rabbi Meir En kotvin et Hashem lo makom agrar v'lo makom machak en tolinoto. Right, so you're not going to come and you're not going to be kotvin et Hashem not on a place which is already erased. whether it's garar that you scraped it off or machak that you erased it. En tolin oto. So how are you going to do it then? Misalek et ha'iriyah kula. You have to take off the entire yiriyah, vegonza, and you put it in geniza. That's going to be a huge efsed. That's what we're just saying. It's going to be a huge efsed. Okay? So Itmar, it was stated, Rav Chanan el Rav says Rav Chanan el Rav, halacha. What is the halacha? Meaning the Gemara sometimes comes, and after already giving you the entire back and forth, it's going to tell you the halacha. So what is the halacha? So he tells you, Tolin et Hashem. We're going to be Tolin et Hashem. Rav Chanan Amar, Rav Yitzchak Amashmuel halacha, mochek v'kotev. No, you erase it, and then you're allowed to write it. Right? So therefore you're allowed to do so. So says the Gemara, V'leima mor halacha kemor, mor halacha kemor. So why don't you just say that? This one says halacha like this, this one says halacha like that. Says the Gemara, Mishum da'afkelu, because it's going to come and it's going to be me'afechet. Okay, Amar Ravin bar Chinana, right? So he comes and he says like this. Says Ravin bar Chinana. Amar Ula in the name of Ula. Amar Rav Chanina says Rav Chanina. Halacha is like Rav Shimon Shezuri. Ve'lo od, and not only that. Ela kol makom sheshana Rav Shimon Shezuri. Whenever the halacha is going to be like him. Meaning, remember, many times when the Gemara is actually saying what the halacha is, it's much stronger than afterwards if the Rishonim are going to say it. Because here the Gemara is saying what the halacha is. Okay, so the Gemara is saying this is the halacha like Shimon Shezuri, and therefore the halacha is like him. Ahai, on which one does it go? Like, what is it talking about? So he says, if you're going to tell me like this, that the Shimon Shezuri says, Kol Hashem kulo tolin miksato and tolin, that you could be toled the entire name of Hashem, but not miksato, v'ha'it maralai was already stated, Amar Chanan el Marav, halacha is tolin et Hashem, Rabbi Chanan Yitzchak Meshmuel halacha, mochek bekotev, you're allowed to come and erase it, and then you're going to write it, v'imit, and if so, hanami lema, so just say the same thing, the halacha is like that, and the Gemarnu. אלא רבי שמעון שזורי אומר, אפילו בין 5 שנים וחורש בשדה, שחיטת אמו מטהרתו. But rather we're talking about a ben pekuah. What is a ben pekuah? Everyone remembers a ben pekuah? You come and you take an animal and you do shechita and you find a child inside of the animal. So you're allowed to eat the animal without shechita. Now there's no isur, not tuma, not because of nivela, nothing. Why? Because it was already purified because of shechitat imo. So he comes and he says, even if it's going to be 5 years and it's doing charisha, I don't have to do anything. שאתה עשית שחיטה לאמא שלו, ואז אתה מצאת את הוולד בפנים. זה נקרא בן פיקוח. אתה עשית, אתה עשית שחיטה. אתה לוקח פרה, ואתה עושה שחיטה. והיה לה ולד בפנים. אז השחיטה של האמא מטהרת את השחיטה של הוולד. זאת אומרת, לא צריך לעשות שחיטה לילד. כן? אז עכשיו לפי זה, אז הוא אומר פה, אפילו אם זה 5 שנים אחר כך, והילד הזה הוא בא והוא חורש וזה, הפרה. הפרה לא צריך לעשות...
אתה רוצה לאכול את האכל, אתה אוכל אותו בלי שחיטה?
ודאי, זה נקרא בן פקוע. אתה יכול להרוג אותו וזהו, לא צריך לעשות כלום.
כלום, ודאי. כן, ודאי, לא כזה.
אין בעיה.
שומע. ואסור להרוג.
Let's say he died by himself or whatever it is, doesn't matter. No, or even if he died outside. Sami, drop dead. After 3 years or whatever it is, you're allowed to eat him.
זה לא מום? זה לא...
לא, מה מום? אין בעיה של מום. יש בעיה של טרפה, אבל לא של במום. לא, אם הוא מת, זה לא מום. Yeah? So he comes and he says, בין 5 שנים וחודש בשדה, והשחיטת עמו מטהרתו. So the Gemara says, Ha'it Manalai was already stated, Ve'ze'ide Amar Chadina, Lacha Krib Shimon Shezurvim, Ita, Ha'unami Leman. Why didn't you just say that? Lacha is like him. Elaha, but rather it's going to be another case. Shh. He says Elaha. But Ishona you omrim. At the beginning they used to say, right? Hayotze Bakolar. Shh. Hayotze Bakolar. Somebody that's going to come and he's being taken out to be killed. Ve'amar, and he says, Kitvu get li ishti, write a get to his wife. They're going to write it and give it. That means even though he only said write it, but it obviously means to write it and to give it. Then they said, even if he's going to go on a place and he says it, the same thing. Why? Because since he's bahul, he's going out of town and he's he's going on one of these plane rides and he doesn't know if he's coming back or not. Remember the people that they were going on the Shaira, many times they would go away, they would go for a few months, but then they disappeared. They would never come back. So also the same halacha would apply to somebody that's going to be Yotzeh by Shaira also, right? Or he's Mfaresh Bayam, he's going on the sea. So any of those 2 cases also, he says, write a get to his wife, they're going to write it and they're going to give it. Not only just write it and give it. Shimon Shezuri Omer, the same halacha will apply to a person that's sakana, meaning that he could die right away. The same thing. Inami, or if you want, you could say, aha, on this one, Trumat Maaser Shel Demai. When you have Trumat Maaser of Demai, Shechazra Limkoma, that it goes and it gets mixed up again. That means you went and you separated the perot of the Mai. And then again, it got mixed up again. From Shimon Shezuri, Omer Shimon Shezuri comes and he says, Af bechol, even on the Yom Chol, Shoalo, you're going to ask, right, ve'ochlu al piv, and you're going to eat it al piv. Right, v'hayit manalai was stated. Amar Yochanan, achakim Shimon Shezuri misukan, u'v'tumat ma'aseh shel demai, v'im ita, now you're going to tell me, right, hunami lema, right, you should also do it. Ela aha, but rather it goes on this. Rabbi Yosef ben Kifar, Omer Mishum Shimon Shezuri, Rabbi Yosef ben Kifar says the name of Shimon Shezuri, Pola Mitzri, which is a type of a kitnit, Shezera'o lezera, that they come and they're going to make it with zera. Mixato, hishrish, lifnei Rosh Hashanah. Part of it already got rooted before Rosh Hashanah, and mixato was only after Rosh Hashanah. En tomim mizelazeh. Why? It's 2 different years. Meaning that what's happening is that once it's before Rosh Hashanah, it's to shayach to the Shnat HaMaaser of the previous one. And if it was going to be part of it, which was Hishrish after Rosh Hashanah, it's going to be of the next year. So Ketzad Yaseh, how are you going to do it then? So Tzover Granol Letocho, what you have to do is you have to mix all the perot in your goren, in your granary, right? Right, and then they have to get mamash mixed up. So therefore, since now everything is all mixed up, so now you're going to take chelek min hadash and chelek min yashan, and you're going to be mitaken shtehem. So says the Gemara, Hitman was stated, Amr Shmuel bar Nachman Yochanan, halakha like Shimon Shezure. V'im itana, if you're going to tell me that it's true, right, that basically you're going to tell me that this is halakha, so then why does it say hunami lema? So also the same thing, that if you're going to tell me that Rechanina said this, you also should have said the same halakha with this, right? So he comes and he says, El Amar of Papa, ashida. We're talking about the shida. What does it mean? From Nachman Yitzchak Amar, ayayin. We're talking about the yain, not of the shida. What is it referring to? So let's see. Of Papa Amar, of Papa comes and he says, okay, ashida. Right? What exactly is the shida?